side. Power pole, you can actually run your power pole from here. The power pole up and down and things like that. I know on my boat, I've got Mercury Vessel View hooked into the NMEA, and that will then show up as Mercury over here, and I can read all my gauges and things like that. So all of the specialty stuff, the way they're doing it is putting it in that far left bar. You'll know that you're hooked up right because it'll actually show up. When it wasn't working over there, it didn't show up. When you tapped it, it said it doesn't work. So when I tap the trolling, you'll see the menu here. You'll notice the same kind of things: anchor, heading lock, same as on your key fob. So you can run those things. Anchor does have a little bit more function on here. Some of the nice things it can do, for example, if I was looking at this map here, not a real good map, but say I was looking at this and I had a nice detailed map, right? And I was looking at this and I said to myself, boy, I'd like to switch this over to here. Boy, I'd like to look at a point. I'd like, the wind is blowing, these aren't real good points, but say this point here, the wind's blowing into that point. I'd like to go over here and fish that point. I can put my cursor there and say, go to cursor. And it will immediately start to turn and get after going after that, where that cursor position is. Since it's a long way away, it's gonna ramp way up and get itself going to get over there. So it would actually travel all the way over there to get to that, to get to that position. Another thing that I find myself doing is if I'm motoring along coming up to my spot, say I was gonna fish this waypoint number 1 there, what I wanna do is maybe not run right up to that waypoint. It's the shallow spot. I wanna stay out a little bit. I can actually say anchor, go to a waypoint, tell it to go to waypoint 1, and again, it will ramp up and start heading for waypoint number 1. So now as it's going there, I can get my rod out, unhook the bait, get up on the bow, get ready for that first cast. So as it cruises in there nice and quiet, I'm ready to actually catch that fish. Now, that's pretty much the only time I do that. Once I'm starting to fish, I switch over, now I'm back on my key fob. So like anything, you can switch foot pedal, key fob, unit. You can give it commands whenever or however you want to do it. Heading lock, same thing. You can put it into heading lock. The only difference here is that it'll immediately put it into cruise control. So if you want to go a little faster, you can adjust that here. Adjust it down, turn off and on your prop. Turn off and on heading lock. Okay. So again, I wouldn't typically set heading lock from in here, unless if I was going to heading lock to a waypoint, then I might do that. Turns, when people ask you about that, say this is a little dream some engineer had that nobody ever uses, okay? Oh, I can make a spiral. That's something everybody wants to do, right? Spiral, out of control, yeah, well. So yeah, I have heard of some guys using S-turns. You can set how long the S-turn is, how many turns it's going to make, how wide it's going to be. And so they're trolling and they let it make S-turns. Most of us just do that manually with this. So I don't think S-turns or navigation are something that I would ever use. The one thing that I will always use though, when I am connected, and the main reason people would want to be connected is if you see up on that unit up there on the top, there's a status bar. What's interesting is that this unit, you can also put the status bar on, but it defaults to turning off. And the way you do that is you go to settings and you hit autopilot, and right here it says auto hide auto bar. So it's a really confusing statement. It means, yes, I want to auto hide it. No, I don't want to auto hide it. So you turn off the auto on or something like that, but this should be off. And then when that's off, your status bar will always be up on the top, which is what I like because it's in a part of the screen that I don't use for anything anyhow. I'm always continuing, if I'm trolling or in the front, I'm always looking at my units anyhow to see depth or where I am on the map. And that's just another piece of information I can see up there. When you hit anchor, it's going to say anchor. When you hit heading lock, it'll say heading lock, and it'll tell you which direction it's currently set at, because that's the way the trolling motor is pointing, kind of north. Right now the prop is at 0%. Right now the prop is off, kind of the same thing. Right now it's on, but it's at 0%. As I bump it up, it'll tell me how fast it's going. So that's a real important thing, because again, that motor is so quiet. A lot of times you don't, even if you're running at slow speeds, you don't know if it's on or off or what's happening here. Here you can kind of tell because but if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you got no reference, it's hard to tell if it's on. Well, I can glance at, oh yeah, it's on, it's 38%. I don't seem to be moving enough. Let me bump it up a little. I'm moving too fast. Let me bump it down, you know, whatever. You'll see as soon as I move the head here, it'll change that. I'll move it a little. It should change over to like 270, 300, a little bit less, 40 degrees less. So that's giving you that status. So that status bar to me is worth that $99 cable. Just that alone makes that connectivity worth it. And again, if your remote control would go dead during the day, you can do most of the things you want to do from the screen too. So it's a really nice backup that way. And again, anything on the NMEA, no matter how many units you have, they'll all show up. Can all run the trolling motor, can all have the status bar.
And it'll all be on that left bar.
It'll always be over here on the newer ones. The old ones used to have, when you went to this kind of a screen, it would have autopilot, and it would come up with this block set of kind of looked like a remote sitting on there. It took up a lot of the screen. It wasn't really usable at all because you couldn't see anything else on the screen. You couldn't window it or anything. So this is a much nicer and much more standard. If you use the Mercury ones, it comes up with a screen like this, then you pick which gauge you want, and it shows you that information. So this is much more of a standard kind of a situation. All right. So again, that's the kind of